Greetings and salutations. Thank you for joining us. My name is Johnny Nato, and you are at Embrace Your Storm. We've got another exciting episode for you, as always. So today I'm speaking with Cliff, and he is quite the creative person here. I'm excited to do this interview. Cliff is a bass player, cellist. He's making bass preamps and also making some herbal remedies here. So, Cliff, thanks for joining us today.
All right, how you doing?
I'm doing awesome. Thanks for coming on. So before we get too far into the interview, Cliff, how did you get involved into kind of like bass and cello, before we get into the bass preamps and all that? Like what brought that into how did that get brought into your life?
Well, I was when I was 8 years old in the first grade, there was a guy that came into my classroom and he auditioned everybody in the class to see if they could sing. And he was from he wasn't part of the school district or anything. He just came in from outside and he was a Juilliard graduate, or no, he had a master's degree from Juilliard.
Mm.
And he had a boys choir that he was the director of there in the town, and he ran a Pennsylvania Conservatory of Music there in Warren, Pennsylvania. So his boys choir, that's what they did. They come out and they'd audition every kid in the whole county, and
Mm.
they picked the singers, and then they make a choir. So I got picked to be in the choir. I was in the little boys choir at 8 years old, and there was eight of us. We did two performances a year, and then with the whole choir, there was a huge audience as opposed standing room only audience.
Wow. That's kind of funny though, because like when the guy asked you to sing, like you weren't even into like singing or anything. I'm assuming you're just kind of like, okay, this guy's asking me to sing, and then he's like, oh, good, you sing a tune. We want you, and you're probably kind of like, oh, all right,
That's what it was. That was so funny. It was so funny because every kid in that classroom was trying as hard as he could to sing something, and they could they just get up there and they'd be shouting and they weren't singing. I got
Yeah,
up there. I was about almost the last one, and I got up there and I sang a tune. He says, "Oh, you're wonderful." I said, "Oh, thank you very much," and that was it. And then,
that's really funny.
yeah, and this was in 1961, and this was back when the music industry was pretty much going downhill. If you know anything about the music industry, you know that the musicians union was their trust fund was put in. It was stopped in 1956, I think it was, and they
Hmm.
were still battling in court all the way up to 1964. So it
Hmm.
was the music industry was in a big state of change at that time. So anyway, I got in this choir, and like I said, we did two performances a year. I think I was there for 2 years, and then when I was 10 years old, the family moved to Pittsburgh, and they had a music program in the schools there where you could play an instrument, but there wasn't any choirs or anything like that that I could join because it was, like I said, the music industry was going downhill. Wasn't much going on, but so I played the cello in school,
Yeah.
and I did that for a while, but it was getting boring. The people weren't really interested. It wasn't going anywhere, and I wanted to do something more because of this experience I had in that choir. And so this guy I knew in school, he was a guitar. He was learning to play guitar and sing, and he wanted to put a group together. So I said, "Yeah, let's do that." So I bought a bass guitar and an amplifier, and I went
So
down to his
you
place.
you were like 15 or something like that then, right? When you did
I was 13.
13, that's right.
So uh, from the time I was 13 to the time I was, I don't know, 17 or so. By the time I was 15, I was playing college. I played a college sorority formal, and that was
That's
that was
cool.
yeah. And so I was really interested in playing because for one thing, I found an amplifier in a pawn shop from the 1950s, and I had this old Japanese bass guitar. I think it was I don't remember the name of it, but anyway, it, we played. This amplifier was a bass tone amplifier. It's called, and I got I got interested in playing bass guitar, and it really turned me on to play the bass guitar. This amplifier was good and everything, and then we started playing bigger places, and like I said, we were playing bigger places and stuff, and so I decided to get a bigger amplifier. Well, I went out and bought a new tube amplifier, brand new. It was a National, two 15-inch speakers. This bass tone only had one. and it didn't do it. You know, there was just nothing you could do to get any sound out of it.
I don't know.
I mean, the tone on the I bought a Gibson bass too, and Gibson EBO, and it just didn't do it. It just didn't do it for me, you know. And so we started playing the psychedelic music. You know, after that, we were playing. You know, we were playing stuff that was pretty commercial, and then when I bought that amplifier, the whole sound of the band changed. You know, we started playing all the, you know, distorted rock and roll stuff,
Yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
I was going to the rock concerts. You know, I saw Led Zeppelin the first two times they were through there. I saw the Doors. I saw all those guys. You know,
That's cool.
and you know, their bass amps, like the Doors. Well, they had a keyboard player that was playing the bass, and that bass
Exactly.
sounded through the whole stadium or wherever we went to see it. It was a good sounding bass. But you know, the bass guitars, you should go see groups with bass guitars, and the bass guitar amplifiers were just not doing it. You know, and so I you know, this isn't good, but you know, and but whatever, you know. So anyway, I ended up going to Berkeley. I was doing some academic stuff for a while. Kind of got away from the music a little bit, and I didn't want to do that. And I decided I'd get back into the music. You know, I thought maybe if I did the academic thing, you know, that maybe I could find a way to figure out how to improve the bass amplifier. You
Yeah,
know,
yeah.
not what I liked, what the way I liked, but they had their own program. They wanted me to study this or study that, and I wanted to study. I needed help with my amplifier, and they wanted.
Did you have that itch at like 15 to like fix the amplifier? Or like
What?
like how old do you think you were when you were like, man, these bass amps suck? Like like how old do you think you were when you were like, I want to try and do something about this? Like, was it before Berkeley? Was it when you got there?
Oh, it was before Berkeley. Yeah,
No kidding.
I went to Denison University for 2 semesters, and
Okay.
I also went to a boarding school. My parents locked me up in a boarding school. You know, like that second amplifier got me in a lot of trouble. They didn't like what I was doing. They locked me up in a boarding school for 2 years.
Jeez,
So
okay.
I went to Denison University, and I was trying to get these. You know, I was trying to get the professors interested in, you know, the bass amplifier problem I
That's
had, and I
funny.
found a couple upperclassmen that kind of got interested in helping me, but they weren't real helpful either. So I dropped out of Denison, and I went to Berkeley. That's when I went to Berkeley. So I went to Berkeley, and I studied cello. I
Mm,
got back into playing cello again because like I said, the bass amplifier wasn't pleasing me. So I went up there and I majored in jazz cello, but I minored in electric bass. And they didn't even have a teacher for me at Berkeley.
that's
I had to go.
crazy.
I went to Boston Conservatory or Boston University, and one of their top students, their master's students, would come to my apartment every week and give me a lesson. You know, I paid him what, $10 a lesson or
That's pretty
something.
funny.
Yeah, and he's up in Montana now with Kirk violins. His name was John Kirk. He's up in Montana. He makes cellos and
That's
violins.
pretty cool.
Yeah, he's really an interesting guy. He studied with Madame Boulanger or
Mm,
Boulanger or whatever, you
yeah,
know.
yeah.
Yeah, Boulanger or something. The same one that Quincy Jones studied with in France. Yeah,
That's crazy.
he studied with her, and he's a really interesting guy. But anyway, I yeah, I went to Berkeley. That's how I got started with the cello and the bass.
That's pretty fu
So
it's pretty funny that you had this drive in you. Like I imagine you the younger Cliff being like kind of getting in everyone's ear. Hey man, you play bass. Like I see you kind of like, hey, help me fix this problem. Like, what do you know about this? Like, it seems like you're kind of like picking everyone's brain to learn as much as you could, or to get someone to kind of catch your passion and like hitch their trailer up with you kind of thing, you know?
yeah, all right, right. You know, I saw the music industry going downhill, and I didn't know what it was at the time. You know, it was just like, you know, well, what is this? You know, why is this going on? You know, what happened to my amplifier? What happened to this? What happened to that? You know, it was just like it was all really kind of making me disappointed. You know, I was expecting things to go a lot better than they did, and things were going worse than they ever could. You know, so like I said, yeah, it was like that. I was picking people's brains and trying to figure out, well, what can we do about this? And
Well, so do
that's
you
it.
want to talk about the when you were staying at the like that boarding home or the like that you were
Oh,
renting a room or whatever? That's where you met that guy, right? I can't remember his name now, but
yeah, his name was Billy McWhorter, William McWhorter, and after Berkeley, I I did some stuff with a booking agent that was my uncle's booking agent. My uncle was a vaudeville star.
that's cool. You said he did like
He
acrobatics and stuff, right? Like
he
tightrope
was a hand
walking and stuff.
he was a hand balancer and an acrobat. He was in vaudeville with Joe Bonamo. Joe Bonamo was the world's strongest man in the movies and so
That's
forth. He was
cool.
he was in the movies with him too, and in the silent movies. And then whenever the talkies came in, well, that was a whole different. The management
Yeah,
changed.
yeah.
And then they made him a stunt man. He was Gene Autry's stunt man.
That's pretty
And
cool.
then but he had a booking agent that booked him for all this stuff in Pittsburgh named Sid Markey. And Sid Markey, he introduced me to Sid Markey. He said, "This guy can help you out. Don't worry about it." His girl is one of the girls that he made was Sandy Mason, and she had a number one hit that year. It was by Crystal Gale. I don't remember the name of the song, but Crystal Gale had a number one hit that same year, and it was written by Sandy Mason. Sandy Mason was he made Sandy Mason. Sid Markey did. So anyway, so I'm talking to Sid Markey, and he says, "Well, we can do this, and we can set you up with Sandy and so forth, and we'll get you a record contract, and everything will be good.
Hmm.
All you have to do is go out and get some places to play here in Pittsburgh." Well, the booking agents in Pittsburgh, they wanted everything. If you're going to play in their club, you're going to sign their agreement, and everything you get after you play in their club, 20% of it's going to go to them. Well,
Right.
they didn't get me booked through Sid Markey. I booked it myself. I didn't need them to get to Sid Markey. So the thing didn't work out. I'm not
Yeah,
going to
because then
sign.
you got you're booking your own shows and your agent still wants 20%.
Agent going to book me for 2 nights in a showcase or something like that. He wants 20% the rest of my life. I said, "No, that's not going to work. I'm sorry, you can't do that." Just
Yeah,
so
yeah.
the whole thing kind of went belly up. I had a lot of money at the time, and I lost a bunch of it. And so anyway, after that, then you know, I didn't have any money, and the money ran out, and I was living in a rooming house in Homestead, Pennsylvania. I went in there, and I found out that the other people in there were older than me, a lot of them. And there was a guy in there who's in 1957 had a number one hit with a group called the Dynamics in Pittsburgh, and he was 15 years old when he made this hit. And
That's
so
crazy.
and then he went into the army after that and became a radio guy. He was radio electronics. He knew
Yeah,
about.
yeah.
So I told him, I had this problem with my bass amp, and he said, "Well, yeah, the music died in 1960 when they changed everything. All the capacitors got smaller, and they went from tubes to transistors,
The
and
solid state stuff, yeah.
everything just went downhill as far as the sound goes. The sound was done. They killed the sound." And I said, "Well, you're the first person I ever met that has the same opinion that I do." And he said, "Yeah." And he started talking to me and telling me this and that. And so I said, "Well, you know what?" I said, "When I was a kid, I had this Bogan PA head that we used for our rock group, and it had a preamp in it. I remember that much about it. I don't know anything about electronics except, I could fix broken cables and fix broken quarter-inch jacks and parts and
Yeah.
stuff, bars. So I mean, I know a little bit about soldering. So he said he's pretty much an expert in tube electronics. So I said, "Well, huh, let's look at this." And I found a Bogan PA at a flea market. I brought it home, and then I got a schematic, and we took it apart, figured it out, and he started showing me what it was and what section that I needed to work to figure out.
Mm.
So I made a little preamp, and he showed me how to do it, and then I just started changing out the capacitors. He was telling me the capacitors are what make the big difference. You
Right,
know,
right.
it's a tube. It was a tube preamp to begin with, but it had these little tiny capacitors in it, and I used those capacitors and put the preamp together and made it work, and it didn't do anything. It wasn't. I wouldn't. it didn't make any change in sound. So I said, oh, well, whatever. And then he says, well, the real difference was the capacitors. Well, I found a church organ. There was a moving company down the street that had these church organs. They set them out in the corner, and the junk collector came and picked them up. And I had this old Volkswagen van, and I walked into the place and I said, hey, can I have that organ? He said, sure. So I got 3 of them. I took them
That's
home.
funny.
Yeah, I took them home and I scrapped them, took everything apart, and I pulled all the capacitors out of these old church organs, and
Huh.
started swapping them in and out on this preamp section, swapping them in. And, I found out that if you put 2 capacitors in series, that makes the value of the capacitor half. And if you put them in parallel, that makes it double. And I did a
That's
bunch of experiments
funny.
trying to figure out if 2 capacitors would work better than 1 capacitor and so forth. And finally, I found something that really worked on my bass guitar with my little transistor tube or transistor bass amplifier. And I had a PV bass. And it was just terrible sounding setup with the amplifier and the PV bass. And I could never get a sound that I liked out of it. And then I started working with this preamp, and I worked it in there. And man, I got that thing sounding as good as my old bass. It really worked good. So that's
How was that when you got it working? Do you remember how you felt?
I felt like I was on top of the world.
I believe it. Especially after over. I mean, not not to cut you off, but in the middle of the kind of your story, but like, not a lot of people are like you to begin with, but I would say a lot of people aren't like you, especially now, where like I don't see a lot of like I got 5 kids.
Yeah,
I wouldn't see my kids, and this isn't anything against them. This is just kind of like how kids are or people are these days or whatever. But like I wouldn't see them being like, oh, let me rip all this stuff out of this electrical, you know, piece of equipment. And you know what I'm saying? Like people don't physically mess with things like that anymore. You know what I'm saying? Like it's inspiring. That's why I want to have you on, because
yeah,
like we need more people doing stuff like this. You know what I'm saying? Like, or not only that, but you literally had this like itch when you were like 15 or younger or whatever, and like you're still like scratching that itch. You know what I mean? Like it's still driving you to do stuff even to this day, sound like you're pre. So I just want to commend you on it. I think it's awesome. I love that. I love the drive that you have, you
well,
know?
thank you.
Yeah.
I know it's different and everything, but like I said, I had the experience from those concerts I did when I was 9 years old. That really, that we made a big hit of ourselves. Those eight kids singing in front of a big large crowd and standing room only audiences, and it was like, they went nuts. A
Wow,
little
there's
boy,
only 8 of you in the choir.
it was a little boys choir. There was only 8 of us. Yeah,
Wow. Okay. Because when you're saying choir, I'm like, okay, that's cool. It's probably like 50 of you or whatever. But like, I didn't realize it was, less than 10. That's crazy.
yeah, yeah. And the place we brought the house down. Everybody
Man,
was.
that is crazy. Okay. Okay.
So like I said, I had that beginning, and I had this impetus that I wanted to keep going, and so
I hear you.
it was interesting to me. A lot of people weren't interested at all. But I got to the point where I would I just figured it out. That you can't please everybody. They're not going to
Yeah,
be
no,
happy.
no, totally. I think it's awesome too how you met that guy who was just like, yeah, music died in 19, because it was kind of like you had this frustration and you couldn't quite put your finger on it, but this guy was like, "Oh yeah, music died in 1960. Here's why. It's because these transistors and stuff." And you're like,
Yeah.
"Yeah, yeah, that's it." You know what I mean? Like that's what's bugging the crap out of me.
It was,
And
kind of a miracle in my life. That changed my life pretty much right there. So I was uh, I was really happy to figure out that the bass amplifier didn't have to sound like it sounds like. So and now today, you got all these multi effects boards and
oh yeah, it's I'm amplification now is pretty crazy.
this preamp, it turns on a lot of them. I mean, a lot of they're really not too much, but you put the preamp in front of them or behind them or whatever, and it really makes a big difference. And so like I said, I'm happy with my sound. I still can't get booked anywhere. Nobody booked me. I've been living in Vegas for 15 years. or for since 1997,
Mm.
and my last gig was in 2015 at the
Oh my
South Point.
gosh.
Yeah. And so, it's just like, I go out there and try and find a place to play or somebody to play with. And they're all, the booking agents are calling all the shots. Every song has to be on their list or something. I'm not going to play their songs. I'm going to play what
Yeah,
I want.
yeah, yeah. No,
Uh,
exactly. Do you still
and
do a lot of cello stuff?
I just released my first album. It's called, it's under the name of Clark Clifford, and it's called Potpourri of Sounds, Volume 1.
That's
And it's
cool.
over an hour of music, mostly solo cello, but
That's
it's
cool.
electric cello. It's with a lot of effects and so forth, and it goes
That's really
through
cool.
a lot of different sounds. I also have a one track. It's a big band jazz composition that I wrote and arranged and so forth. And I've got one song that I sing on, which is
That's cool.
part. And so I've gotten, like I said, I got over an hour's worth of material on this record. Clark Clifford, Potpourri of Sounds, Volume 1. It's on Bandcamp. And, and then, like I said, it's, I'm still working on it. I've got
Yeah.
a line level preamp now that I'm working on that I'm having a hard time getting the noise out of the filament circuit. And, I've got ideas and I work it and I put it together and then I get it good enough where I can work with it and make, like I made my album with it and that worked out with it. It helped a lot with that. And then like this home recording made easy with David Vignola is what really got me to the point where I could release my record. I
Yeah.
during the pandemic, I recorded my record. And then since the pandemic, I've been sitting here trying to figure out how to get it releasable. The
Yeah.
sound was there, but and I could hear it, but I couldn't get it up on YouTube to sound good, and I couldn't get it out there, anywhere. I couldn't put it up there and then play it through the stereo on my truck or whatever, and have
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
sound good. It just didn't sound good. But now, like I said, I went through this course with David Vignola, home recording made easy. That's if you use Studio One, that's what he specializes in.
Oh, okay. Okay.
And he has an SSL board in his house, and he's worked with Steven Slate, has all those SSL plugins,
That's
and he's
great.
figured out how to use those SSL plugins so that they sound just like his SSL board, and that's what got me to the point where I could release my album. And I haven't even been practicing for the last 6 months since I started trying to
Because you've
release
been
the
messing
album.
around with you getting the like mastering the sound instead of actually playing.
Yeah, right. I've been all my time learning how to master and mix this record, and it was just like I lost all my chops, and now I'm just starting to get back into it. I released it about 2-3 weeks ago, so it's on Bandcamp. Again,
That's
Clark
cool.
Potpourri of Sounds, Volume 1. So,
I'm surprised it took you that long. I mean, I think you might have said, did you do like any session bass playing or whatever, kind of like in the Berkeley days when you were younger? But I'm surprised it took you this long to kind of like record something.
well, the recording, home recording, there was a lot of the recording studios were so subpar too. You go to pay somebody $30 an hour to go in a recording studio. You came out with something that it wasn't
Wasn't even
sounding.
worth $30 an hour.
And I went to a top recording studio back in the early '80s and did a demo. A demo. It was good for a demo, but not something that was commercially saleable.
Yeah, yeah.
Even some of these records that are coming out and they're playing them on the radio, the the mixing and the mastering is not there. They're just really choppy. But this one I'm pretty happy with. So anyway, I mean, it's satisfying. It's satisfying to me anyway. I can play it on my truck. I can play it in my car. I can play it on my stereo, and it's still sounding where I want it to sound. So I released it. Otherwise
That's cool.
I would have never released it.
No, I
And,
hear you. Yeah, I know.
and
I hear you.
like I said, even back in the day, that the studios wanted a lot of money, and you go in the studio and you spend a lot of money. I could have spent all that money that I spent trying to promote my rock band back in the early '80s, going into a studio and making a record. But then you make the record, and what are you going to do? You're going to go out and you don't have an amplifier, you don't have anything. So,
Yeah, no, I
you know,
hear you. I hear you.
it just didn't work out for me. So
Yeah.
I was, I was. It was a bad thing all around. And then later on, I learned about how the musicians union had been sabotaged in the 50s, and then finally in '64, the Supreme Court of the United States just threw everything out. And the musicians union was pretty much they broke them. They took all their money away.
And
All
that's
the right.
probably really when music died in the sense for the musicians. And again, I don't know enough of that history, but that makes sense then.
Yeah. Well, see what they did. They took all the writers' royalties,
Yeah.
and they used to take all those royalties that the writers get today, and they gave them to the musicians union. And then
Oh, and then they would split it up amongst them from there.
they would take and like if your club needed a band, well, they just called the musicians union, and they'd send you a band, and they'd pay out of that fund.
Huh.
You know, the club didn't have to pay you; it was a union that paid you.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So in '64, they finally made the final decree that no, that wasn't going to happen anymore. Now the writers get all the royalties. Well, now today, look at it today. You got AI. If you want to write a song, you just push a button and it writes it for you. So, you know,
I hear you. I have arguments against and for it, but uh
yeah,
I think we're still a little we're definitely still in the wild west of AI for sure.
yeah,
Um, it for me, not musically speaking, I use AI for a lot of other stuff, and it is it is quite the tool if you learn how to utilize it for the good that it's worth. There is
yeah,
a lot of bad that can come out of it for sure, just like anything, Like a gun can be used for hunting or a gun can be used to kill someone, it kind of depends what you use it for, right? So I look at AI as in kind of that same way. So,
yeah.
you
I
know,
use I use it for my promotions for my herbal supplement, the herbal supplement that I started.
yeah,
I've been using it online and on my website and so forth. A blog post, my blog on there,
exactly. No, exactly.
and
Uh,
I find it makes my writing sound a lot more sophisticated, more.
well, dude, I'm like the worst writer in the world. Like, I'm lucky I spelled my name right half the time. I'm terrible. And so that's one spot AI has like saved me in so many ways because I can say, hey, I need an article that talks about this or whatever, and then you hit enter and you're like, yeah,
Yeah,
that's what I needed. Like, like
really works good, and it'll correct your grammar and everything else.
Oh yeah, no, exactly. It has all the punctuations and like, like I said, it sucks for people that are good writers, but again, AI is a tool where like, hey, if you're a good writer, then you should learn how to like manipulate AI to, you know what I mean? Like
Right.
if you're a good writer, then it gives you kind of a leg up using AI, in my opinion. So,
It, it's a useful tool. When I was when I was in boarding school and so forth, they didn't have any computers for math computers.
mm,
But when I got to Denison, the first year at Denison, well, that's the year they came out with the HP 35, the
oh
math
that,
computer,
yeah, exactly.
scientific calculator, and that thing it was $500. I wasn't going to pay $500 for a calculator. But wow, these math students, they could do where it would take an hour to do one to
Like
figure
on
one.
paper or whatever.
Yeah, to do it
Yeah.
on paper, it took 15 seconds with the calculator.
Yeah,
Well, the
exactly.
people that had the calculators, they weren't sharing, and it was kind of a bad thing. But
Yeah.
but I I could have bought a calculator and been a big success and just partied all through college, but I decided I'd just drop out and go play music.
Well, hey,
But
there you go.
but so I guess probably today, these young students today are having the same problem. The freshmen are coming in, they're writing at master's degree levels, and that's making a lot of frustration for a lot of people.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
I I don't know. I don't know how they're going to deal with that. They're going to have to figure it out. It'd probably be 15 years before they have it all
Oh
sorted
yeah,
out.
we're still in the crazy wild west. It's gonna take a while to, like this is kind of like this AI thing. It's kind of like an industrial revolution, really. I mean,
Yeah.
It's going to rattle a bunch of markets and jobs and all kinds of stuff, just like the Industrial Revolution did, you know.
Yeah, it's a big thing. It is. But
Um,
like back to the point of all this. So this herbal supplement. Let's talk about that.
yeah, 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 absolutely. I want to come back around. I'll swing back around to the preamp, but we can definitely talk about this now for sure.
Okay, so this herbal supplement. Whenever I built the first preamp and I got it working, I decided, well, look, this is something that somebody's going to be interested in, and we'll get it marketed. So I decided, well, I'm going to go out and try and figure out what it is. So I talked to a bunch of people all over the country about it, and I traveled all over the place. And I talked to a bunch of people trying to get help with it. No, nobody. They said, oh no, we do all that ourselves. We do everything ourselves. You can't help us. You're not going to do anything for us. And so I put it back on the shelf. There it was. The preamp's
Mm.
back on it. I got to go make some money. So I went during my travels. I was traveling around, supporting myself, working on labor readies and stuff like that. And I met a lot of people, and they were telling me, well, this is breaking loose right now. The offshore oil is breaking loose. They've been down since the 80s, and now they're coming back, and they're hiring
Mm.
people down in Louisiana and Alabama, places like that, Florida. You go down there and you're going to find a job. So I went down there and I started in Lake Charles, and I worked my way down to Morgan City, and sure enough, I got hired. I got paid.
Hmm.
Was working 7 days a week, 12 hours a day,
Damn.
and they were working me. It was in Mobile, Alabama. They gave me a hotel room. They gave me a ride to work every day. They gave me one meal a day. They did my laundry. It was
No
and
kidding.
they were paying me $30 a day per diem, and it ended up being like $1,000 a week, and I'd been just I had nothing, man. So I got this job, and it was a helper, pipe fitter helper for 6 weeks. 6 weeks after 6 weeks, the company got run off of that job, and they had another job in Houma, Louisiana.
Mm.
And they said, "Oh, if you want to get down here, we'll take you down here." And I said, "Okay." And there was a little paper test that I could take to become a full-fledged pipe fitter.
Okay.
I, I went from helper to pipe fitter in 6 weeks.
That's
So here
cool.
I am, journeyman pipe fitter 6 weeks later in Houma, Louisiana. I worked there for a month. I mean, worked there for a year. We built this offshore oil module it was for Global Marine,
Hmm.
and it was no, it was the first job, the one we got run off in Mobile was for Global Marine, but then we went to Houma and we were working on this offshore oil module for Texaco. They ended up dropping it in the ocean. It was they lost a lot of money on that. But anyway, I worked for a year. We built it, and I started having stomach problems. All this hard work and everything that I wasn't used to, working 10 hours a day, 6 days a week, or 7 days a week.
Yeah, yeah,
And
it's intense.
yeah, and so my stomach started bothering me really bad. I mean, I just had bad indigestion. So I went to doctors. They didn't have anything. I went to they didn't have anything that worked. I went to, they had some pills that they seemed to make me weak and sick and
Tired and stuff, probably. Yeah.
disoriented and stuff. And it was so hot out, I couldn't, can't live like that, not feeling like that. So I went to a pharmacy. I found this stuff called Twin Labs Stress Formula B50, and I took that. And 3 weeks later, I made my stomach's all better. No problems.
Hmm.
So I put it back on the shelf. Go another 6 months, the stomach acts up again. Take some, goes away. Well, I'm fine for a couple of years of going on like this. No problems. So then one day I go to the pharmacy and they don't have them anymore. I said, "What happened?" They said, "Oh, they're discontinued." Said, "Oh no, don't tell me."
Yeah, that's the word you don't want to hear. Like,
Yeah. So, so I started looking around everywhere I can look. I went to GNC and they had this stuff on a shelf called Mood Formula. And I looked at the ingredients, and there it was, exactly the same ingredients.
that's
They
funny.
had, yeah, there was only 60 caps in this bottle, like whereas Twin Labs think had 200 caps, and it was like $5 less or something like that.
I would have been like, how many? Do you have any more in the back? I would have been like,
Bought a bottle, yeah, I was fine again. I got good to go for a while, And then one day I walked into GNC, they didn't have any more. They discontinued. So man, so I had the bottle, I had the ingredients, I knew what it needed. So I started looking everywhere. No, can't find it anywhere. and I started trying to make it myself, buying the herbal ingredients. It was just it was a B50 formula. It had a few vitamins in it, and then it had this herbal formula after the vitamins.
Mm.
And I looked everywhere for the herbal formula. I figured I'm already taking a B50 vitamin. That's not going to do it. And it's this herbal formula. So I'm looking everywhere for the herbal formula. I find all the ingredients online, eBay and everywhere, and I find them and I buy them, I put them together. I bought a little scale, I weigh them, I put them in capsules, try it out. Nothing's working for me. Nothing. I can't find one ingredient. There was just one ingredient that I couldn't find.
Mm.
So I tried. It was an extract, flower extract, I think they call it. And so I bought linen flowers. I tried to make an extract. You put it in booze or alcohol for
Mm.
6 months or 8 months, and then you take it out, and that's supposed to extract. Well, it didn't do any good. The stuff wasn't working for my stomach. It didn't do anything. So like, I pulled a tendon in my ankle, and I was out for a while. I couldn't do anything. They were going to do surgery, but it was the middle of the pandemic. I said, no, we're not going to do surgery in a pandemic. I don't want to go be in a hospital. I don't want to
Yeah,
be.
exactly.
So they gave me a brace. I wear a brace on my foot now, so I have to wear it all the time. Or I have to wear it when I'm working, manual hard work. So they gave me this stuff called naproxen for my pain and my when I pulled my tendon. Well, the naproxen really messed with my stomach. It turned
Mm.
for a year and a half. I was in a bad way. And the doctors were giving me all this pantoprazole and stuff like that. I don't like pantoprazole. It makes me sick. Like I said, it
Yeah.
makes me weak.
Well,
It
and that stuff tears up like the walls of your stomach or whatever, right? I mean,
it's not good for you.
yeah.
I don't. It didn't work for me. Some people it works for. It doesn't work for me. So, I mean, not my lifestyle.
Yeah.
So I whatever. And I found so after a year and a half of suffering, I couldn't even lay down in bed. I had to sit up to sleep and stuff. And so after a year and a half of suffering, I'm looking online for this ingredient. And I found it, and I said, okay, send me a sample. They sent me 100 grams, and I've been working on that 100 grams for over a year now, and my
That's
stomach
cool.
not bothered me since then. So I decided, well, I'm going to manufacture this stuff. So I started in last October. I went to a trade show here in Vegas, Supply Side West, and I started asking people how to do it and everything, and I figured out all the regulations and how you have to do it and everything. And I started a website, and I'm doing a crowdfunding campaign. So I'm building an email list right now. So I'm going to build an email list until I get about 5,000 people that I really know are going to buy the product. And then I'm going to have them manufactured and sold. It's like a crowdfunding thing. It's a little bit different. You can't do it on Kickstarter. You can't do it
Yeah,
on
yeah.
because it's a supplement, and they don't allow supplements for a lot of things. There's a lot of regulations for supplements, and they don't want involved with all that.
Yeah,
So
no, it makes sense.
so I'm doing. I think I'll do it on Shopify with a pre-sale button. I'm not real sure, but I've got over 1,000 right now. I've got over 1,000 emails
There you go.
that I'm working on. I still have to sort out whether these are buyers or they're just looky loos or whatever. But I've got, like I said, it's a good product. I'm calling it Gastro Rejuvenator Stress Mood Formula.
There you go.
Gastro Rejuvenator, all one word.
Gastro
And
rejuvenator.
you can find it at gastrorejuvenator.com. And
That's funny. This is like it's almost like your bass preamp thing kind of all over again, where like you're getting into this other kind of like industry. You're like, I don't know what the hell I'm doing, but damn it, I'm gonna fix this.
yeah,
Like,
I mean, some people have a pet peeve. Well, mine is when they take something good off the market that I can't live without.
no,
That's
I
my
hear you. I mean, honestly, that there's probably a lot of other situations where people have kind of felt the same thing. Not the same, but like the same. Like, oh man, I really love X, and now it's gone.
yeah.
It's kind of funny how many people might have missed out on opportunities where it's like, you know what, maybe that person should have stepped up and put X back in the market or whatever.
Yeah,
Like,
maybe that that company just they weren't gelling right or something with it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Their manufacturing or something wasn't happening right, or their marketing wasn't properly done or something. I don't know, but I that pill was, it should have been. They called it a mood formula. They called it a stress B50 stress
Mm,
formula.
mm.
You know, they could have just called it a stomach pill. They never mentioned it's a stomach pill, and that's what it worked for.
I wonder if it's due to like I don't know enough about this like FDA or whatever, but maybe it's like claims you can't make kind of thing or whatever.
Right?
Like
The FTC and the FDA, yeah, they want laboratory clinical studies done
yeah,
before you
yeah, yeah.
claim stuff like that. Well, with the supplements, this is ancient medical stuff. They've been doing this for centuries. Using these herbs for centuries,
I hear
and
you.
so they can't go against all that all of a sudden just because they're in power. They have to give a little bit of leeway. So you can get away with it as long as you're not making an actual claim. Oh, this is going to fix your stomach. And no,
Yeah,
well, no,
yeah.
I can't say that. I can say, well, this this is good for this. It's a rejuvenator. It'll make you relax. It'll give you an overall well-being. That's fine. Okay, but
Yeah.
I'll just call it gastro rejuvenator. I figure that's what Twin Labs should have called it in the first place, and they should have got their clinical studies done and all that. They got all the money. I don't. I'm just somebody that wants this stuff. I don't want to. This. If I don't have this, I probably can't live that long. But
No,
if
I
I
hear
have
what you're
it,
saying. I hear what you're saying. Yeah.
so anyway, it's just something I'm really I'm thinking that this is gonna make me some money so I can make some capacitors. No one will make my capacitors for me. I'm gonna have to make them myself. So I'll make some money with this, and I'll make some capacitors, and then I'll build preamps and sell them cheap. That's what I want to do.
Well, so I guess you know what? I'm going to take that to swing back around to your bass amp. So like when you would talk to that guy in the boarding room there, and he was like, "Oh, and you kind of got the first one working and all that." What happened after that? Like, how did because we got and during the conversation at one point you mentioned how you got like 100 of them built, and like you
Yeah,
still, I don't think you still, or maybe you did say you still have some of them even right now of
yeah.
those 100,
I
right?
revising them.
Yeah.
There's new safety regulations and so forth. I mean, I put the price high enough where it could possibly become a collector's item or something like that someday. So I hear something that really did work. It really made a difference with bass amplifiers. But I put the price high enough where I'm not going to sell a whole bunch of them. I don't want to sell a whole bunch of them. I don't want
Well,
to
I
make
mean,
them.
you still need
There's
to
only,
get paid for
there's only
what you're
some
doing.
yeah, there's only so many of these old capacitors around, and in some states they don't want you to sell them like in the European Union. You're not allowed to have them anywhere near there. You can't
Huh.
sell any
Huh.
capacitors, and I don't know if you'd even be allowed to tour with one of these preamps in their country because they're really strict about having that
Wow,
stuff
that's
around.
pretty funny. Yeah,
So
because I think you were saying something about like the capacitors like have this a tiny bit of material in it that's like cancer causing or something like that, right?
they call them PCBs. They're it's some kind of whenever they manufactured the capacitors, they used to use this oil. It was mineral oil with the PCBs. Well, the PCBs were a fire inhibitor. They used mineral oil in the capacitors at first, but then sometimes they catch on fire and burn the whole building down. And mineral oil is what you use in lamps. So
Oh.
mineral oil, and so the PCBs are the fire inhibitor. So they won't the mineral oil won't catch on fire with that in there. But it turns out it's a cancer causing agent, and you can't manufacture this stuff. Now, in this little capacitor, if you take it apart and get it on your fingers or something like that, that's probably not going to hurt you. But if you go to work every day and you're getting it all over yourself every
Right,
day,
right.
you're probably going to get sick after a while. But
Yeah,
these
I
so they're not really dangerous or anything like that. It's just that they've got something in them that they don't want to manufacture anymore
yeah,
because
yeah.
we'd get sick. So and they've got these new capacitors. You could buy the capacitors; they're about $80 a piece. Um, New paper and oil capacitors, but who's going to pay $80 a piece for capacitors? It takes 5 of them for one of my
I was
preamps.
gonna say that jacks up the price of your preamp for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah. Yeah, I'm not going to make any money on those capacitors. If I put them in there, geez, I can't charge more for those capacitors. So it doesn't make sense. And $80 a piece is way too much for a five
I
cent
hear you. That's
capacitor.
almost $500 or whatever. Just
I mean, they use 5 cents worth of material and they're charging $80. It doesn't make sense. So I'm just I just saying. And so the new capacitors, the oil that they're using in there, that's not so environmentally fresh
sound
friendly.
either.
Not very. It's kind of dangerous stuff too. And so there's I think there's a solution out there somewhere, and somebody's got it and already figured it out, and I just have to find it. So and then once I did, I'd be able to put do a mass producing thing on it. If I sell enough stuff that's herbal supplement, I'll do that. We'll see. See what happens.
Like when you kind of made the 100, you found obviously enough capacitors or whatever. Like, you mentioned in passing, I think before the interview, like you went to NAM a few times and stuff. I mean, like you were
Yeah.
like, yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, you were working a regular job to fuel doing your bass stuff. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
so like now, again, I don't think a lot of people have that kind of drive where it's like, oh, screw it, I need to get a regular job, whatever, because I need to like funnel it into this thing I'm doing. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know. Again, I like your drive. Like, it's impressive and it's encouraging. Like, it makes me want to get up and start doing something right now. But
Well,
like,
when I was in college, they talked a lot about alienation. Alienation, I guess, is a subject that fits under. I was so alienated. I was like,
mm,
no, I wasn't a part of all this stuff that they're doing there. I was, I like I said, I had this beginning with this boys choir, and this push to be in the music industry, and I found that that they were doing things that I didn't agree with, and I couldn't stand it, and I couldn't get along with it, and so I decided, I just keep doing my own thing, and live my life the way I want to live my life. I'm not going to live my life the way they want me to live it. So I just did that, and so I got along. I got along with the way I wanted to do, and that way I'm not so alienated. Like I said, this record, when I just got this record out, I feel a lot better. I feel a lot better. I
I hear
feel
you.
like the the weight of the world off of my shoulders because I don't have to. I don't have to. You know, People if they want to say, "Who are you?" I say, "Well, here's my record. Go listen to it. You like it? Listen to it. If you don't like it, don't listen to it." But to me, that's me right there. I can tell you, I feel a lot better. I got a decent sound, man. I don't
I
sound
hear
like
you.
I don't sound like so and so down the street. I got a professional sound out of this thing. I went to school to become a professional music, and I got a professional sound out of my first recording. So I'm happy. But again, all during the time that I was doing this recording, I wasn't feeling too good. I had this problem with my stomach. So I can't say I
Mm,
performed at my best level, but I can say that now I've got my stomach back together. I mixed it at my best level, so
that's
I'm
pretty
doing better.
cool.
I'm doing better. My sound is doing better. My preamp business, well, it's kind of on the back shelf now. I can't find any capacitors, and I've looked everywhere I could think of to ask people to help me with finding these capacitors, and they're just not interested. I don't know what it is. I guess the industrial world is just too important to them to even
Mm.
think about. So I just go along with it. The heck with it. What am I gonna do? So I got a few preamps. If you want a preamp, hit me up. I'll sell you one. You know,
Have you had anyone like get a hold of you after like using one, being like, dude, this is freaking awesome. Like I was
yeah, yeah,
looking for this or whatever, like,
yeah, yeah. I mean, I got a list of endorsements on the website, nightwalkerpreamp.com. You can just look up newbasstone.com and it'll take you there.
that's
But
cool.
I have a list of endorsers on there that's, some pretty heavy hitters on that list. And it's, you listen to what they've got to say. They did videos and so forth. They did
Yeah.
demos with it, and how it works. And, it's pretty good. Yeah. I mean, I got it going. And there's a lot of people, like I did shows and I went to shows and they said, you know what, I can use that. I want that. I got it. You can do it. I said, well, look, either pay me $400 or go make it yourself because you know what? I mean, I sell them half price to the endorsers. I
Yeah.
says, look, you can make one of these things for $35. You can make it yourself for $35. And I want to tell you, you guys probably know better electronics guys than I am. I'm not the best electronics guy in the world. I learned from a guy that was in the army, and he went through the whole course. And
Mm.
I built these and I put them together, and yeah, they work, and yeah, you can buy one for $800, and believe me, it's going to last you probably 15, 20 years with no problems. It's built that good. But you know what? You probably got somebody that knows more about the electronics than I do. So, take it, try it out. If you like it, go get your buddy to make you one. That's what you should do. Or you can take this and use it, and use it. And if
That
it breaks,
that's hilarious, Cliff. You're like talking yourself out of like
yeah.
out
I
of
mean,
like selling
like,
preamps.
yeah. I mean, I could sell them for $200, $300, and still be making a nickel a dime here, But I'd selling them for the price I'm selling them for. I'm losing money. I've been losing money since 2008 when I first made them. So it's okay for now, but hopefully, something's going to break, and
No,
I'm
I hear you.
something's going to break where, I'll get partner up with somebody, or somebody's going to say, you know what, we got to fix this. This is terrible. What's going on here? And, I live in Las Vegas, I see a lot of stuff. I go to these concerts down there, and, I have to, I walk out of them. They're just not, they don't care. They don't
Yeah,
care.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Musicians union.
I would say the audience, a lot of the audience doesn't care if they're letting a lot of these rock bands get away with playing like backing tracks and everything to, their
Yeah.
music. I mean, that's a whole nother topic, but
Yeah. Yeah, but even then, like I said, the bass and the drums is usually what ruins the show. I'll get down there and listen to it. It's just not happening. I mean, if you're high enough, you're gonna have a good time, no matter.
right, yeah. Have you been to that what's it called? The Sphere? Have you been to that yet?
I built this.
No
Yeah,
kidding.
yeah. I worked on that. I had a job there for a year building that,
Dude,
and
that's cool. What did you do? What did you do there? I mean, if you don't mind
I
going
put
into
the pipe.
that.
I put the
That's
pipe in
that's
for all
cool.
the air conditioning, and for the like they have these big rooms full of computers, and you have to cool them down to keep the.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
We put in a cooling system for that,
That's
and
cool.
yeah, it was a good job. It was good. Yeah.
So have you seen a show there? Like how is that place for like acoustics and all that?
I haven't seen the show, but I'm really interested in going. They have these acoustic foam, like you see a lot of stadiums where they put rock bands and so forth. Well, this place, it's got acoustic foam on the walls, like
Huh.
foot and a half thick, all around and everything. I imagine the sound is pretty good.
Yeah, I
I
would
mean,
hope so.
they've optimized it. I haven't been to see what they've done. Like I said, I'm not too optimistic about it, but I'll come down there and watch a show one day here pretty soon.
And I guess coming circling back around to your the supplements you're doing too. Like again, it's very like parallel to your amp thing where you're just and it's hilarious too. You're like, screw it. I have the ingredients right here in the back of the box. I'm gonna freaking make this myself. like,
I mean,
like,
yeah. It was something I found it worked, and I was fed up with going to doctors and trying all these other products. And I did try a lot of different products, and nothing was working. Nothing did anything for me. But this one worked, So I figured, well, I'll make it myself. And then when I finally did figure out how to make it, like some 15, 20 years later, well, you know, how much can I get of this? How much can I get of that? Can we put this together? Can you make it for me? And sure,
how did you figure out kind of like, oh, I need to put in like this much of that or this much of this? Like, how did you kind of figure out that? Like,
well,
what?
that's what the label on the original product had the ingredients and how much of this was
Oh, no
in there.
kidding.
Yeah, like you know,
Wow, they
three
they
hundred.
literally they literally gave away like the secret sauce or whatever. That's funny.
Yeah, it was 100 milligrams of this, 50 milligrams of that, and then just put it together. So
That's funny.
yeah,
No kidding. So like, again, it's hilarious how like you know, like don't take this the wrong way. It's like you didn't know what the hell you were doing. You're like, I'm just gonna buy these ingredients and like sit in my kitchen and measure them out and I'll ingest a few and see what happens.
I read a lot of books. I read a lot of books. I have a lot of books on alternative medicine. You know,
That's cool. That's cool.
time the doctor tells me there's something wrong with me, I go search my books and I look and see what I can do. You know, to try and stay away from the doctor's office. You know,
I hear what you're
and,
saying.
you
And
know, a lot of my jobs, I don't have. You know, a lot of my life I spent without any insurance. You know,
I hear
I've
you.
worked. You know, it takes 3 months to get on the insurance, and the job's maybe 9 months. So you got 6 months insurance, and then maybe a month or two after that, and then then they want so much for insurance. Well, wait for the next job, you don't have
Mm-hmm.
insurance, so on and so forth. So I just figured ways to, to keep myself healthy without running to the doctor all the time or having
Yeah,
to.
and
So,
honestly, I mean, it's kind of a good testament too for people listening. Like,
yeah,
maybe someone listening has some other issue, right? They're going to the doctor for. Like, if you haven't checked out kind of like natural remedies or holistic kind of stuff, it's definitely worth checking out. You know what I
yeah,
mean? Like
folk,
you won't be wasting your time. I could say that much.
yeah, folk remedies. There's a lot of powerful folk remedies out there. I mean, they laugh about, oh, you got a cold, to get some chicken soup. You know, well, chicken soup makes you feel better. If it makes you feel better, that's pretty good, right?
Yeah, no, exactly. Yeah,
Yeah,
no, totally. So,
yeah.
so like with your with the supplements right now, I know you're doing the crowdfunding thing. So like, is the point to get people to kind of give their email, like, and do you have like a
Yeah,
future? Do you have like a future date or an idea of when you would like to try and you
once
know?
I've got once I've got around 5,000, people that I can talk to and engage with, and figure out that yes, they're going to buy this stuff, and then I'll go out and get the stuff made and I'll sell it to them.
So
So
are you still making it for you just because you need it for you, right?
yeah, I make it for myself.
Yeah, but
That's
you
it.
but you couldn't actually like sell it to anyone right now, could you?
No, I don't think so.
Because of like regulations and all that stuff or whatever. Like,
I think I could get in trouble for selling stuff that I make on my kitchen table. You have to go through.
that's what I mean. Like you're not because you have to get like not necessarily a facility, but you have to make sure it's all
Yeah,
passes all the codes and all that stuff.
tested. It's got to go through lab tests and all this stuff. And
Yeah.
plus the insurance. You need to get insurance for it in case somebody does throw a wrench in the work somehow.
Yeah,
And the
yeah.
insurance is pretty expensive. So I need to get an insurance policy for it, and then I have to find a contract manufacturer to make it for me, and I have to get the testing laboratories to test it all for me and get everything. That's kind of a nightmare right there. You buy all the
Yeah,
ingredients,
I hear you.
buy all the ingredients, you get them over here, and then you test them. And of course, it's a hit and miss thing where, well, if you find something wrong with it, can you return it? And stuff like
Mm,
that.
mm.
Oh, you're going to get your money back? Are they going to rob you? All this. It's But so I'm I'm working on it, and I believe it's going to work out. I really do. I mean,
I do too, man. I like I said, if it's already working and it works for you, that's like half the battle right there. You know what I mean? Like so now you just kind of unfortunately need to go through all the headache of all the paperwork, all the crap that sucks.
I mean, but means to an end. That's what it is. And so I'll get there and I'll do what I have to do. That's life. It's the way
Yeah.
it works.
So
So
one other thing I wanted to hit back on is like you met so you put out the Potpourri of Sound was the first album, but do you have planned on putting out two or three other ones? Is that right?
I have plans. The first one I recorded the first three suites, the first three cello suites, the Bach suites,
Oh wow.
and so the second one I'm going to record the third three, four, five,
Okay.
and four,
Okay.
five, and Bach suites. I already know them. I just need to polish them up a
Like
little bit
sit
more.
down and do it.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So
Do you think that'll go a little bit smoother now that you've kind of been through the first album? You think like
uh,
mixing and mastering and stuff will be a little bit smoother?
it'll be a lot better. Yeah. And now
Yeah.
I know. I know the ropes. I've learned the ropes, and so it should go a lot faster. The recording will be better. The second one will be a better recording. I'm sure of. Yeah.
I hear you.
So,
Yeah, Cliff, I had an awesome time talking to you, dude. You're an inspiration. People tell me that I'm an inspiration to them. I think you're an inspiration. Like, I love how you just roll up your sleeves and it's like, whatever. I'm just gonna freaking do this. Like, like you travel around the country talking people's ears off, trying to, like get them on board with your preamp or figure out how to do things better with that. And then I'm sure you're kind of did that with the supplements too. Like I said, it's inspiring, and I hope people listening, will take a little bit from that because like what's the worst that would happen? Like, I mean, when you're like, say when you're building your first kind of like preamp, like the worst thing that happens is you're gonna plug it in and turn it on, and nothing's gonna happen, right? Like, like
yeah,
there's nothing to be afraid of if you fail. Like, I think a lot of people are worried about failing. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Especially this day and age. Like, I think with like social media and all that, people probably, look at Instagram and they see people like playing guitar or whatever it is, right? And they're probably just like, "Oh, I could never do that, so then I'm just not going to start."
yeah.
Like people think you have to be like this awesome whatever the first time you do something. And that's not the case, you know? It takes a lot of hard work and effort and practice to do a lot of things of what people do. So, I hope people listening to your story picked up on that.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, no, seriously, man. Like that, like for not like that's why I have people like you on because I think other people need to hear stories like yours and they can be like, you know what? What am I afraid of? I had this idea to whatever, make this thing, I'm gonna do it. Like that's what I want people to do when they hear people like you talk. You know what I
I
mean?
appreciate that. Thank
Yeah, for real, for real. So I I wish you well on everything you do, Cliff, and it sounds like you're gonna succeed at everything you do because you're a little bit like me, I would say, and kind of stubborn and don't know when to stop, which is a good quality to have.
Thank you, Jonathan. I appreciate that.
Yeah, yeah. So is there anything else you wanted to go over or cover? Anything else about the supplements or the preamp or the albums we didn't cover? Anything else you wanted to go over?
I think we hit everything. Thank you very much.
Yeah, no, I appreciate your time, dude. And yeah, seriously, I hope we can continue conversations past this. I'd love to stay in touch with you after this.
Sure enough, yeah, just anytime.
Yeah, awesome. So everyone, thank you for listening. Thank you for downloading. You need to go out and do whatever it is that you've been sitting on, and take a page out of Cliff's playbook and just kind of do it. And thank you for listening. Thank you for downloading, and don't forget to embrace your storm. See ya.